in my view, all human beings are the same. We are all made out of 21 elements. Mainly 6 of them: oxygen, hydrogen, nitrogen, carbon, calcium, phosphorus. That's the main. The rest is just, very small amount. So, really, but we have different culture. That's why make it so interesting.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you eat the same like food. If not variation, it get boring, sometimes. Right?
Yeah.
That's my view. Yeah. So the interconnectedness, I see it everywhere.
Welcome to the Artist Talk. Sorry, what's the name of the show? Sorry.
By the company they keep.
By the company they keep. Welcome to Don't Look Projects. Today we're doing the Artist Talk with Chenhung Chen called The What We Keep?
By the company.
By the company we keep. Sorry, it's hard to remember what I just said. Yeah. Okay, so then like I said when we met before, I like to start with people's origin stories. So especially with art and cultural background, because I think that kind of helps us understand where people are coming from in terms of their practice, what motivates them. So, where are you from?
Yeah, I'm from Taiwan originally, and I went to New York City to do my art master degree, School of Visual Arts, and then we moved to California.
So at
one point, yeah.
No, you're so not the School of Visual Arts in New York? That's where you went? School of Visual Arts. How long were you there?
New York, okay, from 86 to 2005.
2005.
In New York, yeah. So, 19 years? Something like that. 2 years in school.
2 years?
Yeah, 2 years in school.
Can I have you pull this a little closer to you? More. Like, you see how close I am? Like 2 fingers away?
I feel threatened by the microphone.
More. So we get good quality. Yeah, no, I'm serious.
Okay.
There we go.
Okay.
Good. All right, so then you're from Taiwan. What was growing up in Taiwan like? When did you first realize that you wanted to be an artist? Tell me that kind of like, what kind of stuff were you doing as a kid? What was your main interest?
Yeah, my first happy memory of my childhood, it was when I was in the 3rd grade, and the teacher put a huge piece of paper in the back of the classroom for, different group of children. And I remember I insist on working on them diligently, and because it's kind of free, teacher let you work on it when you want to. It's not mandatory. So I remember I consistently working on it. I want to make it beautiful. And that was my memory. And I don't remember much of other things, at that age.
But how old were you when you came over?
To America?
To America. That was for college, right? So you were like, how old? Like 21, you said, I think.
26.
26, okay.
Yeah, it was for graduate school.
Oh, thank you. And then, so tell me a little bit about that cultural experience. Because, I mean, like, I didn't grow up in the U.S. either, so I know what it's like to come over here and be like, whoa, this is a very, very intense experience, cultural shock. So, like, so people have an idea of what's the language? Do they speak Mandarin?
Okay.
In Taiwan?
Yeah. Well, it's a whole thing. Okay, it's so complicated.
Okay.
In that part of the world, I'm sure you can understand because you grew up in Rome, right? Yeah, just like China is the size of about the whole European continent.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And Taiwan is this little island on the southeast corner. But you see, original Taiwanese, they are Aboriginal.
Okay.
So I'm the 5th generation my ancestor came from one of the province in China. In Taiwan. So I was the 5th generation.
Wow.
How do I find out about that? Because every year we do tomb sweeping. ceremony. I know people don't do it here. It's slightly different. Because the grass will be overgrown, and we have to go clean up the tomb and do all the ancestor worshiping stuff.
Yeah.
And I asked my mother, it's like, how many tombstones do we have to go to, and then it's like, and then what about before that? So it's like you count it, and then, oh, that's it. But the first one who were in Taiwan only have the male.
Oh, really?
There's no female.
So the women live forever.
You would guess, right? Yeah. It is a really complex culture behind it, because women wasn't, they don't want to take women there. Men want to establish first, then they bring women over later.
Okay.
So that's the culture. And then in school, so I want to say something. So, okay, regarding Taiwan Aboriginal people is part of their Polynesian migration.
Okay.
Some people even say they originate from Taiwan because there are some evidence to say so. But who knows, right?
Uh-huh.
But yeah, there are books and research about it. They talk about that. Okay. So the way I grew up is a lot of homework and education and calligraphy.
Calligraphy?
Yeah. I mean, nowadays, who even write, use pen?
Yeah.
Everything's on computer. But the way I grew up is third grade. I remember, probably even before that, calligraphy class. I came to love it because when I went to college there, the calligraphy it's not just the square. It became an art.
Mm-hmm.
It was so beautiful. I remember this calligrapher from 8th centuries. And he was a great calligrapher, especially when he was drunk. So, I mean, in the National Palace Museum, you can still see his work.
Yeah.
So that influence, it was so deep in me. That's, until today. And then the Chinese ink painting, it is really based on the calligraphy. Calligraphy is the bones of the ink painting.
Uh-huh.
So that's why my work becomes so linear. That's the influence.
Would you say your first medium was drawing? Is that because I see a lot of crocheting, and we've talked a little bit about what your practice is. We'll get into more specifically that. But in the early era, was artist a thing culturally in Taiwan? Because I've spoken to other Chinese artists or Chinese Canadian artists I spoke to, was saying that wasn't even a concept that existed. Was that a thing? No parents would encourage their children to become artists, right? Right. So the drawing you did, they didn't put it up on the fridge?
No,
not even that. Wow.
No, but my parents are okay about it. Because I'm a girl.
Oh, okay.
See, that's the benefit of being a woman. It's like, okay, you're gonna marry to somebody else anyhow, so whatever you do, it's okay. It is based on that.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
So then when did that transformation come? I'm guessing before you went to SVA, right? So, how did that start brewing in you? And did you make the decision? Because I know that making a decision, I'm an artist, is a hard thing to come to terms with. Like it's almost a little burdensome. I mean, not to be dramatic about it, but you're going to be sad if you don't do it, right? And so when did you come to terms with that? Was that after school, before school? Was SVA your BFA? MFA.
Yes,
Okay.
yeah.
Had you studied art somewhere else?
Yeah, in Taiwan.
Oh, how that's a new question.
No, okay.
What's the cultural difference in how art is taught?
Yeah, so along the way, junior high school, I was always good at arts, and I would be kind of in competition, and then I would win some kind of something.
Oh, nice.
And so naturally, I went passed the exam, I went to college.
Uh-huh.
So in Taiwan, the college is like first year you have general Western art, some basic stuff, and then the Chinese arts. So, then later I was majoring in Western art, which is a bit of a joke, because you live in that place, you could never see the original Van Gogh or Rembrandt or whoever, all the Western stuff. It was such a limited resources.
Yeah, yeah.
And the Western art before Impressionists, a lot is about religions,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
It's like, how am I going to relate to that?
No, I know.
There's no way, right? So later on, yes. And then, of course, we have both all this basic education from, of course, drawing, painting, printmaking, sculpture, all that stuff, you name it. But as I turned out, I have, and of course, the Chinese painting and calligraphy. I end up have better understanding about Chinese art.
Yeah, yeah. Well, what you're saying is really interesting to me, because a lot of that stuff is religion because the church was the power center.
Exactly.
What I know a little bit about the Cultural Revolution, the propaganda posters. There's a really good book by Taschen that I've looked at but that's really my only. So would you say that? So,
did you say Cultural Revolution?
Yeah. I mean, I know you're from Taiwan.
Yeah. Okay.
But it sounds like it relates a little bit, especially if your cultural experience wasn't part of that they were wiping out, like they were trying to erase some of the cultural heritage.
Yeah.
And then I remember, not to make American cultural reference, but in Rush Hour, Jackie Chan is like protecting the stuff from Hong Kong, which seems to be where a lot of that's still managed because of the English colonialism. They were able to sort of preserve that because they didn't have rule over that area. Tell me a little bit how art, because I one of the things, like in Western art, we're taught a lot about how like to make revolutionary art or something that's, because I think of how it's taught here, but a lot of it is like propagandistic in state, especially dealing with like the church era. Like I said, I grew up in Rome, so I grew up around that stuff. So to me, that whole idea of it not being religiously motivated is interesting. What funded the arts in those times while the church was happening? What kind of stuff was going on there? Are you comfortable talking about some of that?
You're talking about China and Taiwan, right?
And Taiwan, yeah.
How to fund it?
Because my view is so Western chauvinist, and you're talking about specifically how you don't relate to all the stuff that I grew up with. So
Right.
to me, it's fascinating.
Right. Yeah. Let me put it this way: Chinese, okay, let's say 3,000 years of this history. That's okay. 3,000 years. Okay. The more documented, it was about 2,000 years. Okay. Who supported? Whoever had the money.
Yeah.
Right. Everywhere is the same, right? All this stuff. See, this I can also relate to. See, when China, before the first emperor, united the so-called China, before it was all the different countries, like 6, 7 different kingdoms. And of course, the family had the money, would control the literature, the philosophy, the arts, everything.
Uh-huh.
So before the first emperor united China, there was all the scholars, like you heard of Confucius, Taoism, all the stuff. Those ideas was formed about 2,500 years ago. So when the first emperor from China is about 2 BCE. Okay, so it's before that.
And Christ wasn't even born then.
Exactly. So all this family when they have money, but then there's also a lot of war going on during that time. And then the scholar and such, those people, they become, when a war going on, the family cannot support them. They will be out, right? So what do? They form ideas. So Confucius was one of them. And, all, like, I'm sure you heard of Sun Tzu, the art of war was one of them. So all this idea was formed at that time. It's incredible ideas. Yeah. And also those ideas influence China until today.
Yeah.
Still there. So it is always the money is controlling the arts. And in European culture, it's the same thing.
Yeah. Like for example, in the Renaissance, they would paint kind of sexy paintings that were religious, because they had the money, like the Venus and all of that. But it's interesting. So is there like a, I think there's like Islamic art, Christian art. Is there Confucius? Are there traditions of art embedded and inherent to those philosophies that have been inspired by those philosophies? Or was that, because was Confucius, was it, I don't know. So I'm asking, and this is going to maybe sound like a very dumb Western question, but was it did any of those philosophies take hold the same way, or was society mostly secular? What was the deal? Like, how was the state ever kind of intertwined as it was with the West? Okay.
The original idea of Taoism or Confucianism, they are all masters. And they have students, they are teacher and student relationship. So, and the time, the people in government, they don't want to listen to those people who have great idea, to tell me how to run the country. So the idea become idea, so they have scholarly lineage. And then the whole, country, it become a separate things. It's, Lao Tzu, the original person, sort of, he didn't form a religion.
Yeah. It was more like a philosophy kind of thing.
Yeah, it's all based on philosophy, really, and daily living. And it does influence us until today still.
Yeah, but it wasn't a centralized Taoist scholarly. Or there were scholars, but it wasn't like the same way. There wasn't a pope kind of thing that was imposing. And it wasn't a mafia.
No, it wasn't a religion to begin with.
So then what? Okay, so then tell me a little bit more about then how all of this stuff affects your work, right? And
see, okay. All this idea, they just idea. But Chinese people, they build houses. They make china, ceramic, right? They make furniture. They make all the stuff, clothing. But it's all based on those ideas. Why all the pattern from that culture is so different than the West? It's all the influence of those ideas. About the nature, the yin and yang, the balance.
Can you expand on the yin and yang concept? Because when I was a kid, it was like a cool poster that and all the people that were into karate were into But what does it actually mean from your perspective?
To give you an actual example, for instance, this piece. Sometimes you will see a Chinese painting have a rock in the bottom, and then the branches, tree trunk coming up, and the branches and the leaf and flower, and then back maybe a few birds or this and that there. That type of painting. So it's about this flow of nature, the energy. So that's one good example.
So it's more of like a conceptual metaphor about
energy.
About energy.
Right.
Interesting.
Right.
You want to hear what we thought it was? It was when I, in the 80s, it was like, this is the masculine and this is the feminine, or this is the dark and this is the light, which I don't think was ever right. But it was just how it was translated over here, which is interesting. So then you talked a little bit about these craft traditions, the painting, the the calligraphy, all of that stuff. And then when did you get into crocheting? Because it seems to be an important part of what you're doing these days. But it sounds like you used to do that for a long time.
I learned it when I was in high school. It's one of the curriculum. So you learn to make a sweater or scarf. It's very basic. That's all the training I had. So when I started doing this body of work, I just figure, hey, why don't I not do what I used to do? Just went with where my thought went. So I just crochet right and left, back and forth, up and down. And it's kind of where my thought went. And that's from the shape.
So they're not necessarily referencing anything in particular. It's more about a decision making, like it's an abstraction of crocheting.
Yeah. It's more like every moment when I look at the piece in my hand, I feel comfortable with it and I see beauty in it.
Yeah.
That's my basic guideline.
Well, it's interesting because you're using a utilitarian sort of practice in this more intuitive way where you're not making something specifically. Can you describe a little bit about what those wires are and wires and materiality and how that ties in a little bit with the chi stuff that we were talking about?
Right. The choose of the material, it is because the symbolic meaning of energy, because electrical wire, they are energy. And so I collect a lot of cables. So I cut it open and extract, especially all the phone jack cables. And I just extract all the material out, and all of them, people gave them to me. Yeah, they're all recycled material.
Does the recycling of the materials have a drive for you?
It's really...
Or it's mostly about the fact that there are cables that would pass electricity?
Yes, I love that symbolic meaning. It's important to me because, the linear element relate to, my background, the calligraphy and the stuff, right? And then also there's another psychological meaning behind it. I remember when I was at SBA, and one day this professor, he just asked us, think about your work. Which part of your body relates to your work? I thought that was really a weird question. Why would my work relate to my body? Of course, some people artwork do, obviously, but mine don't. But then when I seriously thought about it, it's like, it's more like outside of my body, but it's still attached to my body, which it would be like my hair, right? And hair is linear. So there's another hidden psychological, connotation behind it. So, and then, yes. I think in Western art, they don't emphasize enough on the so-called energy because everything's so like out, not in. So I love that in the culture I grew up, we emphasize on the inner world. So that's why I choose that material specifically, even though in the beginning I was given with a whole bunch of this thick cable. So but it was sitting in my studio for a year. I was thinking, what am I gonna do with this stuff? Yeah. So I started to cut it open, took all the copper out of it. There's so many, and I crochet a whole body of work over there. And some of them sort of represent the sort of inner, and then with layers. It gets I guess I try to kind of suggest, the inner existence in a sort of physical way.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, one of the things that I really like about these forms in particular is that they are abstracted, but they also feel like either wind blown or ocean blown. Like they might be sitting at the base. Even though they're static, they kind of have this thing where it feels like that, something's happening to them, even though they're which I do appreciate. Which I think it has a little bit to do with that interaction of the dynamicism of it does make it feel like a body in action, even though it's an abstraction, which I do appreciate. You've been out here in LA for quite a while. You've been hustling for 10 years. This is right. Yeah. Tell me a little bit about your work with LA Art Corps and a little bit about the artists that you like to in the LA scene, because I do find that connectivity always interesting and maybe something that's a little bit overlooked. But
okay, I dubbed that space the Art Corps because now Prenay is the director. Over the 10 years, I become good friend with him. Mm-hmm. We can really communicate, talk about arts.
Yeah. He actually brought you up in his interview that I did with him.
I tried to listen to that, but I didn't hear that part. Anyway, I'll get into it. Okay.
I'll find the transcript and just send you the text.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. Yes, he is really trying to bring the unseen people, and I think right now it's a show about the Filipino artists.
Yeah.
Right. So I really appreciate what he did, and they put a lot of effort. It's more for the artists to talk to each other rather than selling the artwork, because it's a nonprofit. So we all need that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the art thing, there are many, many good artists.
Do you have any favorites out here? We don't have to shout people out, but I'm just saying.
Yeah, I don't want to mention names.
Okay, no worries.
But there are many artists that I love.
Yeah.
Definitely.
But what I think is interesting about that, having had that conversation with Pranay and then seeing your work after he described it, it sounds like that community aspect definitely. It's not like you're an artist that just kind of works in a vacuum, right, and doesn't interact with people. You're like part of the community, which I definitely wanted to note and give you respect for, because you don't get into a gallery unless you've been doing some of the work you've been doing. Can we talk a little bit about a little bit about concepts and concord and dissonance of dichotomies? A little bit about that, because we kind of talked a little bit about China, we talked about the US, but we really haven't gotten into the culture shock element of it. And I think it's interesting because, especially, I don't know how it is anywhere else, but the West is very much interested in materiality. Is that something that came into your work after you got out here, or were you already thinking in terms of the materials represent specific things based on the fact that they're conduits for electricity?
Well, I would say yes. It is at School of Visual Arts. I have incredible professors. They are all up there, famous, and especially von Reidensma. Ursula. Her works everywhere. She used woods, incredible works, and name. Anyway,
that's okay.
So many professors there, and also the culture shock you just mentioned. Obvious, it's such a culture shock.
Especially at 27, you've lived on.
26
you're an adult.
years old, yeah, and come from that Taiwanese culture into New York City. They are probably equally crowded, environment. New York City is crowded, and Taipei is extremely crowded. But everything is different. Even the Chinese food is different. There's no way,
Do you like Chinese food in America or no?
Well, in Los Angeles, better.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. A lot better,
so
really.
Someone told me it was sweeter here.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, but then in at School of Visual, and first thing, I would just mention to her that she asked me why do I use turn 3-dimensional. I mean, first year at SVA, I was still painting and stuff because I tried to continue transition into that environment. And one thing really have a strong impact on me is the DIY culture in America. It's like, what? Right? What is it? I never have to do anything when I was back there. Fixing the house, I don't even know how to use the tool gun. I never have to do anything like that. It's like we go to school, go home, study, and more study. That's what we do. So I was so impressed. I mean, in the SVA, every artist have a space, right? In the graduate school, that's what they do. They even know how to build wall. Artists, they know how to build wall. They know how to use all the tools. Like, wow, that's really different and really impressed me. So that really influenced me. So I transit my 2-dimensional work into 3-dimensional because of that.
Because you were able to get your hands on some good tools.
Yes. Yes, definitely.
That's amazing. Well, that's the most American thing I've ever heard you say, that you like power tools. You have fully assimilated. Well, that's really interesting. I do kind of want to hit a little, because we talked a little bit before we in the preparation for this about that concord and dissonance, and I think that also ties a little bit to the yin and yang thing, but right. Maybe from a different perspective. Go ahead.
Can I add something to it? If you look at that piece of work on the father's wall, can you see order and chaos? Right? So that's my language, visual language. The order and chaos, the harmony and the the two opposite power. Yeah.
Coexisting. So that's what you like about Discord. Do you feel like that comes from the culture shock experience, or am I reading too much into that?
No, I mean, well, yes. Everything, that's what I experience. And I don't know why, I constantly see the two things, the dichotomies. I constantly see it. I mean, I even love the literature. Writer would use two opposite words to combine it together to describe something. I don't know why. It's more powerful, perhaps. It's more intense. It's, real to me. Yeah. The fun of oxymorons, Where you're just like, your brain's kind of like, can I really wrap my brain around this? Yeah, I wonder how my brain works. Like always two opposite things. Yeah. So then in your artist statement, you talked a little bit about human's nature. And you said man's nature, which is a cultural thing that I noticed. That's not a very Western way a contemporary way of talking about it. But what do you think about human's nature in general? Like, what are the things about that? I guess I use that word because the culture I grew up with. I mean, all people from Asian country. Do you feel that way? I mean, right? The man is dominant power in that culture. One time I went to India. There's this form of the immigration, not immigration. When you enter that country, they will have you fill out your information, and it's on the side of your father's information. Why? My father wasn't even alive then. Yeah. So that culture is like a woman, either you belong to your husband or your father before you got married. Yeah. But in general, the human's nature, I was just pointing out that that's how you refer to it. But human nature, like what do you think? We were talking in the pre-interview a little bit about that idea of some things just kind of being
inextractable from human beings, right? And one of the cultural markers of being American is this strong sense of individuality. Right. And I was saying that comes from the Enlightenment. It's actually a pretty new concept where like privacy didn't exist for a very long time, right? I mean, it's for like maybe last 100 years, or no, that's from whenever the Enlightenment was. Do the math. I'm bad at math, but
Enlightenment.
No, you don't.
The
have
end
to.
of 18th century.
18th century. Yeah. But what's it called? But you know, this idea you're coming from a culture where, from what you describe, it's a lot more about community, more interconnectedness, right? Whereas Americans are a lot more about this individuality, which I think is a benefit, right? It's a good thing for people to be able to have that. But then we are also in a space where technologies are kind of taking that privacy away, almost voluntarily. But I'm interested in sort of your idea of these ideas of interconnectedness. And hopefully I didn't taint it too much with my input.
No, not at all. Let me start with individualism, individuality. I think that's the thing make me want to live in here rather than there. I'm a person, I go places, I take what I like. I want to live that way, not be, controlled by other people's idea and, culture. I also love all different culture. I like to study all different culture and travel and stuff like that. So, and see, we all, in my view, all human beings are the same. We are all made out of 21 elements. Mainly 6 of them: oxygen, hydrogen, nitrogen, carbon, calcium, phosphorus. That's the main. The rest is just, very small amount. So, really, but we have different culture. That's why make it so interesting.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you eat the same, like food. If not variation, it get boring, sometimes, right?
Yeah.
That's my view. Yeah. So the interconnectedness, I see it everywhere. Also, well, I see it really, especially, perhaps if I give an example, now my day job is a medical/legal interpreter.
Oh, wow. That sounds like it pays good.
At least, enough to keep me alive.
Yeah.
I see when people, they don't speak the language, they cannot see the doctor, right? Especially those people who are injured from like a worker compensation. So I was there. Is there anything you cannot translate? Right?
Yeah.
You can translate everything. Of course, there are some specific things more culturally driven. You do have to use a paragraph to explain it rather than a word or 2 words.
Yeah.
So everything can be translated. So there are definitely this interconnectedness between all of us.
Yeah.
We just kind of pronounce it slightly differently.
No, that's fascinating. I mean, the cultural difficulties of like language are so amazing, and to come over at 26 and like, did you speak English when you came over? Did they
a little bit.
They teach it in Taiwan?
Yeah, we started learning English in junior high school.
Oh wow!
But come on, it was a joke when you came over. When I came over here, it's like, oh my God. It's not just the language; it's also the culture.
Yeah.
And the European, this culture, English language, is so tied with the whole European culture. Yeah. Right? It's so different.
What was the first thing that when you came over here, you were like, I'm glad I came? Like you saw it and you were like, this would never happen back in Taiwan. I made the right choice. Is there anything memorable like that stood out to you when you first got here?
Not in the first, because in the first it was complete cultural shock. Completely, it's like, oh my God, yes.
And New York is not easy too.
Right.
In the 80s either.
Right.
Yeah.
It was. But the more I live in this country, the more I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah. This, the experience you have here is more international. It kind of like the story of a frog living in the well, right?
The what?
The frog.
Oh, okay.
Live in the well. All you see is that much of the sky.
Oh, yeah.
But then later on, when you experience more, you are out. You see the whole world, not just a little sky anymore.
Was it pretty much hegemonous in terms of culture in Taiwan, or was there diversity? Because you said, you mentioned that there were Aboriginal people there.
Mm-hmm.
What like, was there a lot of cultural differences that you could experience? Or is that what you mean when you say that the U.S. is more international?
Well, U.S. have more racial issues.
No, I don't want to bring those up. I'm just saying.
Yes. Well, no, the world is changing so much. Taiwan now is very diverse also. Okay. Because society changed, everything changes. Taiwan, of course, the Aboriginal people, but then they all speak Mandarin language, and they all kind of become. They still try to maintain their culture, but it's like living here. You get assimilated.
Yeah, no, it's almost impossible.
Everybody assimilated in a way, but then in Taiwan, it's not as diverse here.
It's more diverse here.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
No, I mean, well, we're in Mexico right now. That's what I always say. They just moved the border. Yeah,
I know what you mean. I understand it completely. But in Taiwan, the people, they are some people from like the Philippines, Southeast Asia. People went to Taiwan, or they were there because some people need them to take care of the older generation, and people go there to work. Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's that. And foreigners, yeah, increasingly.
Oh, that's
more
amazing.
And more. Yeah.
And the same thing happens if you go to Miami. You become a Miamian, though. You start speaking like a Cuban. Even your English sounds like you speak Spanish. But you wanted to tell me the story about these cables, and then
those cable particularly. It relates to this body of work. That I think it was on 2015. At the time, we had a house in up there, Ventura County, and I wanted to convert the garage into a studio. So the electrician was changing all the light structure and so he wanted to take the old stuff and throw it out. And at that moment, I said, no, don't throw it out. That was incredible. So all the conduit was, at that moment, I had a realization I can use it as a framing for weaving. Because when you weave stuff, you need a frame, right? Yeah. So, and then in 2019, I had a consignment, a company, it's called Hosa. They sell those cable for musical instrument or electric guitar, and speaker and stuff. So they have all this cable, and they want to create a piece that attract people's attention in a non-show, Mm. So they gave me tons of, pretty much everything. It's from them, from this piece. And so that's why all those weird heads, the structure of the cable that normally we don't see, that's where it came from. So working on that particular piece, I had to invent another way of weaving the cable, not crocheting. With that particular piece, I crocheted the structure, and then on the surface, I had to put more. So I kind of invented a way of binding two cable with wire together.
What is that yellow wire you're using to bind it?
Just regular wire.
Okay.
Yeah. Gauge 26. And I realized that way of weaving actually is probably like a type of basket weaving. That probably already exists. I just didn't know.
You just intuited it.
Intuitively invent. So that's where this body of work came from.
And then can you tell me a little bit about this stuff behind you, and then also these staple painting pieces?
Okay. With this body of work, I think I started around just a little bit before the pandemic happened. And because that was such a dramatic experience for all of us, and make me want to go back to drawing, because drawing is such a fulfilling.
So immediate.
Yeah, I can still draw, even though most of my work is abstract. And I realized, oh my God, I can still draw. So I just started drawing, and then putting all the things I usually study about, like India and Turkey, China, all the
what
different places. What
can you tell us about Turkey?
No, nothing. I know nothing about it, really. But it is that, just a little bit of curiosity and a little bit of study about that place, and I put my process into the drawing and combine them together. Like, some of the ink, I have them for 30 years.
Oh, really?
And I said, like, those things, it was, I collected from a friend of mine, and I put his name on it. It's become part of my memories. Mm-hmm. And it's like life circumstances just really sucks most of the time, but life itself is perfect in every way, in my view. So I kind of put them together as a visual diary. So since 2020 and till recent years, I keep this kind of visual journal. Mm-hmm.
And the staple stuff?
Oh, the inspiration for the staple drawings, it was when I saw telephone poles. When people put in like lost dog, lost cats, and then address, like for some kind of lesson and this and that. After all this paper were gone, and that's what's left on the telephone pole, it's like thousands of staples. It looks so powerful to me, all this human activities, happened.
Yeah, it's like a trace of events that happen too, right? Because there are flyers and whatnot.
Right, stuff like that. So, and then I play with it. So I found the handmade paper, this 9 by 9, and one day I found out, with the stapler I have, the only area I cannot reach is a little square in the middle. So I just play with that.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I think I saw that. Yeah.
So much fun.
Yeah. No, there's a satisfaction to that too, especially with the limitations of that stapler. Well, anything that I haven't asked you that you maybe wanted to get out before I start asking for Q&A?
Okay.
And are you ready for Q&A, or do you have anything else you wanted to say?
That's about it.
You've been going for an hour.
Oh, already?
Well, 48 minutes.
Oh, okay.
Does anybody have any questions? Yes or no? You do? Here, let me check.
Okay.
You know what? Just say it, and I think we can get it.
I'm just curious about your process and how you began. It's so abstract, and how you began. Since this piece is closest to you, do you start with the outer wire and just? I guess my question is about your process and how you get inspired and how you go about it.
Right. Great question. It's like, yeah, when I mentioned about the conduit, right? I was inspired. You do weaving also.
Yeah.
You know, weaving requires frame.
Yeah.
Without it, how are you gonna stabilize all the material, right? So I have to stable the conduit first, sort of the shape. It can be, flexible, it's okay, but because gradually when I use the cable and then wire to stabilize it, it will start to become firm. So unlike the traditional weaving, is piece of cloth or, fabric, whatever, but with wire, it's more, it has its own power. It can stand up, by itself to a certain degree. So I start to go through the system just, with two. I use the golden wire, bind it together, and went through that process. And then start to decide the shape and form the shape. Yeah.
But is it flat or is it hanging?
Both. Because
at some point it goes on the wall, but it starts off maybe.
Yeah. Yeah. But you do have to start with flat first, either on the floor or on the table.
But you are making a choice to weave it up, right, and give it volumetricness, right?
Everything is a choice.
Yeah.
Yes.
You could, in theory, make a completely flat one. Yeah.
Yes.
No, it's crazy. Go ahead.
Because you said that everything needed a frame, right? I came in late, and did you talk about these pieces here?
Yeah. Earlier.
Okay.
Yeah, they don't have frames because it's different body of work.
It's more like a crocheting. So the process is going to be a little bit different.
Yeah.
It doesn't need the frame because it's that crocheting thing.
You said before about the parts.
That is like crocheting. You do with the hook needles. So I just went with maybe start a point. I just keep going, and then left to right and right to left, and then left to right, up and down. The way my thought went, that formed the shape.
That takes so much ability and intention to be able to create those shapes with just a crochet.
It's free flowing. It's in literature there's a type of writing. It just went with your mind, right? Stream and conscious. Yeah. Yes.
So looking at this, the wire I feel like is a rather flexible material.
Mm-hmm.
Over there, I can't exactly tell how rigid or flexible those wires are. How much control do you have in like the final form of things? Are you constantly kind of like trying to fight the material to do the thing?
That's a good point. I don't fight with the material. I just let it be. That goes with the philosophy I grew up with, really. It just, we are so focused on the process. The result doesn't matter. If I like it, it will stay on the wall. If I don't, I will change it, right? So I just went with the process. And whatever it is, it is. And sometimes people ask me, when do you know it's finished? I don't know. When it's finished, it's finished.
Have you ever thought something was finished and then went back to it?
Yes. Yes.
So she's just telling the truth when she says she doesn't know.
Yeah. I don't, yeah. There are pieces I show, and then after the show done, I took it back and I add things to it. So it's okay, yes.
I'd like to know more about your space or your environment, which inspires you to create, to get your creative juices flowing. Because my interpretation of your work, I see like nature references. Mm-hmm. So in terms of like what gets you going in terms of your actual space where you create your work? Like, are there any influences like music or anything like that?
No, No, not much music. I listen to classical maybe because that doesn't influence my thought. So just kind of play in the background sometime. And I love nature. Sometimes I see certain things really, struck me. And I don't know where it came from, really. It just...
Garden in front. That's...
No, but... No.
The husband is getting shot down. Probably the person that knows the most.
You built this nature in the front yard.
I love gardening. I love it. Yeah. And all the stuff, probably, let me put it this way. It's almost like the food you eat, and then you digest it, and then it come out. So it's not anything representational. So, yeah. But it is, there's over the years, a lot of taking things in, digesting it, and then come out. Yeah.
But you said that there was order and chaos in your work. You said that was an intention.
That's how, I think I feel it in life. That conflicts or dichotomies is always there. Especially, I came from another culture, right? And there's this constantly, hey, since I landed here, I constantly explaining myself, right? Right, yeah. So there's that conflicts always. But then I see the differences and I see what I like and I adapt. Yeah. Yeah.
I was bouncing off what you were saying about nature.
Mm-hmm.
I was also seeing a lot of labels in terms of like commercial labels.
Right.
And, is that a critique about it?
Oh, yeah, because during the pandemic, I was like, there's this fear there that not to go out, especially my husband say, no, don't go out. Yeah. And so, yeah, we order a lot of things for online. So it became part of your life. It's like, it's particularly for that period of time that, yeah, kind of symbolize that, the mail, you purchase items through internet. Yeah. I think pandemic have very strong impact on all of us still, right?
I'm still recovering for sure.
Yeah, right. So it's from that.
Anything else?
Like, it's just what you had said. Just one thing. You had said that so much of your work has to do with this kind of like not conflict, but kind of you did this between your culture and where you are now.
Mm-hmm.
Can you explain that?
Do I have any example? Let me see. You do, huh? Yeah. By the way, this is my husband. Yeah. Yeah. There is, right, okay, people you live with, I live with another culture, right? And of course, if you don't live with them, who give the F, right? But if you do, you have to face it. So in this process of facing a mirror pretty much, constantly, there's a mirror telling you what you do is wrong, okay? So, is it wrong or right? I mean, it's really up to the
Well, that's interesting.
moment.
What are certain things that you do that are considered faux pas in the U.S.? That like cultural things that you grew up thinking were okay, that over here they're not. Or you don't have to.
No. I try to think of I would like to answer that. What do I think is not?
Because for me, being Cuban is loud. Like that's our thing.
Mm-hmm.
We are.
Mm-hmm. No, it's not what I do. It's not good, but it's not even the culture I came from. I mean, I'm not really fit into the culture I grew up with either.
Yeah.
I think it's to be an artist. That's the culture by itself. And then the rest are other, you see. This is this weirdness about artists. I mean, one time I found myself Googling the physiology of vomiting, you know. But it was really complicated. It was really interesting. So for us, something interesting, for other people is like, I think it's that, right? As you are an artist by yourself, so.
That's an interesting thing to say, that we're always the other.
Oh, I would agree with that. Well, this has been great. Thank you guys so much for coming out. I really enjoyed this. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
This was really
Thank you, everyone.
I feel like I learned a lot, right? Well, thank you so much. And I guess it feels weird to do the sign off of the podcast, but we'll be back next week with another guest and another topic that may or may not be art related.